Tinnitus drains you, both physically and mentally. Your subconscious mind is constantly tuning into this sound, something that most people don't have to deal with. When I first started suffering of tinnitus, the only way I could cope was by shocking my system with ice cold water, by splashing it on my face or even submerging my head. I was so envious of those who didn't need to kickstart themselves just to get up in the morning. I found myself questioning, why me? Why am I the one that's burdened with this? Surely no one else in the world can have tinnitus as bad as I do. This period of my life was defined by survival mode. Tinnitus survival mode. My mind was hyper-focused on this ringing, constantly waiting for it to just stop. Every single morning I'd wake up and I would listen for it, and then I'd feel absolutely crushed and devastated when I realised it was still there and it hadn't stopped. The only way to describe it is that I felt frozen, exhausted, and completely and utterly trapped. I grew so weary of casual conversations. I was scared to do something that other people take for granted, and I couldn't be bothered. Straining to listen over the sound was exhausting. It's my full effort and it knackered me. It made me so tired. I was completely frustrated by the challenge of listening to my professors in lecture halls, fed up with blaming everything on my tinnitus, and simply feeling worn out all the time. At university, my tinnitus seemed to intensify, which completely baffled me because I've had tinnitus my entire life. Why is it suddenly so overwhelming? And the answer became clear. The older and more aware I became, the louder it seemed to get, the louder I would perceive it to be. As I set bigger goals for myself, like earning a degree, I unconsciously started viewing my tinnitus as an obstacle, something to either fight or flee from. As my situation worsened, I skipped lectures, distanced myself from friends, and neglected my health. Couldn't understand why I felt so terrible and why I couldn't shake this feeling off. I was stuck in a loop, blaming everything on my tinnitus, and not once did I even think about how I was treating my body. The constant ringing was all I could focus on, and who could blame me? There's no switch off for this constant noise, and the lack of control was just excruciating. It's very easy to get lost in the tinnitus sound, and if I sit in silence and listen to my tinnitus, what happens? It grows louder. Our brains are constantly on the lookout for threats, and they're wired to detect them. And when we fixate on tinnitus, we perceive it as something that's abnormal, something that our brains need to fix. The more attention we give tinnitus, the louder it becomes, both consciously and unconsciously. If I asked you right now to think of a giant pink elephant, and then I told you to stop thinking about it, you'd still be thinking about it, right? Now imagine trying to stop thinking about something that's constantly going on inside your head, and that is tinnitus. In my darkest days, I turned to self-care. I realised that I was making things worse by neglecting my mental health and my physical health. So what did I do? I started making small changes. Day by day, little by little. Brush my teeth, check. Take a walk, check. Each small step built on the last. I focus on improving just 1% each day. But let me tell you something, at one point I felt determined to make an appointment with my doctor because my mental state was something that I knew I had to talk to a professional about. He told me I wasn't depressed, I didn't need antidepressants, and to just go for a walk. Confused, I asked why? Why am I not depressed? His response was because I still enjoy university. And that was it. No follow-up, no callback, no check-in. He left me completely in the dark. And it was a major setback for my mental health. All of the progress I made, I felt like I took more than one step back. And I spiraled again. Yet somehow, I kept pushing forward. But it's okay. I started journaling, I started writing small goals down and sources of motivation. It kept me moving, and little by little, I just kept going. Each day, that 1% improvement fueled me. Slowly, my thoughts began to change from, is my tinnitus still there, to what time should I go gym? What's the weather like? Should I go for a walk today? Who am I going to meet today? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What am I going to achieve? This gradual and slow transition was completely and utterly life-changing. The more I achieved, The more I realised tinnitus was no longer holding me back, I became driven to prove my past self wrong. Next, I equipped myself with tools like sound generators, aromatherapy, cognitive behavioural therapy. These mental and physical tools became my safety net. And although I was at a very good place, these spikes did still happen, it is inevitable. And sometimes they did seem random, and they still do. I've learnt to accept them and to feel prepared. This sense of control was and is still so empowering. And eventually I found that I didn't really need these tools to live happily alongside tinnitus, simply because I felt so in charge and so in control of what was going on inside my head. Learning to accept and control my tinnitus was monumental in my habituation journey. And I'm still discovering what helps me each and every single day, and that's what life is all about, progressing to the next level and to make yourself better than before, better than yesterday. Education is absolutely crucial when it comes to managing tinnitus, but how on earth, in a realm full of uncertainty and untrustworthy things online, do you find reliable information? Tinnitus UK and RNID are both very reputable charities that you can go on their website, and they've got plenty of reliable resources to learn from. Beyond that, community is invaluable. So thank you so much for being here, and if you share your journey in the comments, it's going to help so many other people in the same position. Learning from others' experiences with tinnitus shows and proves to yourself that you're not alone. I think the hardest part about tinnitus is its invisibility. No one can hear it but you. I once firmly believed that my tinnitus was the worst case imaginable. Could I prove it? Absolutely not. And now, as a habituation coach, I've learned that nearly 99% of people suffering with tinnitus feel exactly the same way. So trust me, you're not alone in what you're thinking. It's completely natural and normal to have your brain think this way. You're not alone, and you will get through this. By the end of this video, I want you to know and remember a few key takeaways. Firstly, setbacks are completely normal. It's natural, it's human, and if you don't have setbacks, yeah, you're not human. Do not be disheartened if you feel like you've taken a step back and you feel like you're regressing a little bit, because this does not erase the progress that you've made. Secondly, small improvements add up. Focus on getting better just 1% each day, whether it's by incorporating self-care and going for a walk, or just setting small, manageable goals for the day. Third, equip yourself with tools, both physical aids like sound generators and mental tools like cognitive behavioural therapy. These tools can make a huge difference to how you perceive tinnitus and how much you feel in control with it. Fourth, acceptance is crucial. You might not have complete control over it, but what you do have control of is how you respond to it. And finally, you're not alone in this. If I hadn't made my social media and just started talking to other people who could relate to what I'm going through, I would be in a completely different place right now. Remember that there are resources you can go to like Tinnitus UK and RNID. Trust yourself, be patient, and just keep moving forward little by little.